jungle whispered his fate long before he knew it. Lu, the outcast, lived by the axe, shunned for his dark skin and rugged face. Only Meena, the chief's daughter, had ever looked at him with kindness. But love was powerless against pride. On the night of his greatest betrayal, Chief Fang's dagger struck not his heart, but his destiny. Plunging into the raging waterfall, Lu was swallowed by the abyss, his life stolen by the current. Yet, the spirits of the falls did not let him die. Reborn in golden light, he would return, not as the man they had cast aside, but as the one they could no longer ignore. The ugly hunter and the beauty. The blade whispered against stone, slow and steady, like a secret being told. Lu, the outcast hunter, sat outside his lonely cottage, sharpening his knife. The mist curled at his feet, thick and watchful. The hut behind him sagged, weary of standing. A pile of firewood rested beside it. A man's hands built, even with no one to make for, and the jungle watched. It did not move. It did not speak, but it watched. A rustle, not the wind. Lu's grip tightened. The silence shifted, no longer empty. He rose, stepping toward the trees. The mist parted, the air thickened. The scent of damp earth and something else, something wrong, filled his lungs. Then, a sound. Distant, a roar carried on the wind. The jungle held its breath. Somewhere beyond the trees, fate had begun to move. And Ko-Fa was already walking toward it. The trees remember. The arrow slices the air, swift and true, but the deer is quicker. A single breath, a flick of muscle, vanishes into the green. The jungle exhales. Leaves shiver where hooves have fled. Lu does not move. Failure is a familiar taste, bitter and dull. He lowers the bow, eyes scanning the undergrowth. The bird's cry still lingers, a warning, a sign. He was not the only hunter today. Somewhere beyond the trees, something stirs, not prey, something else, and the jungle watches. The world feels vast in its silence. The trees whisper, the stars flicker, but none offer him an answer. Lu exhales, his breath stirring the water's surface. The ripples distort his reflection, warping the lonely face staring back. Perhaps that is the truth, the world shifting him into something unrecognizable, something easily forgotten. A branch snaps in the distance. A sound too deliberate, too heavy for the night's usual chorus. Lu does not move or look away from the river, but the hunter in him listens, and the river watches. But the jungle was not silent. A branch bent beneath a careful step. A breath, measured and slow, stirred the leaves. The hunter had come before the monster. Lu crouched at the tree line, unseen, watching. The girl in white, bound and waiting, was as still as death. The wind tugged at her robes, the last light of day catching in the tear-streaked hollows of her face. His grip tightened around his axe. The stories had reached even him, carried by fearful whispers from the village that cast him out. The tiger wizard was real. And tonight, he would come, but so would Lu. The sky darkened. The temple loomed. The moment sharpened. Then, a growl, low, ancient, hungry, and the jungle watched. But the silence does not last. A shadow moves, fast, relentless. The whistle of steel cuts through the night. Lu, he does not call her name, and he does not speak at all. There is no time for words, only action. His axe swings, meeting the beast mid-lunge. The impact rings out, metal against claw, force against fury. The tiger wizard snarls, golden eyes flicking toward this new challenge, this interruption. The sacred tree shudders, leaves trembling like startled birds. Meena gasps, her breath hitching as dust and power swirl around her. The jungle watches. The temple listens, and the battle begins. The ground shuddered beneath their clash. Claw met steel, sparks flashing like dying stars. Lu's arms ached with the force of the blow, but he did not falter. He could not. The tiger wizard snarled, eyes gleaming with something beyond hunger, like amusement. As if this fight, this mortal defiance, was nothing more than a passing storm. Then he struck again. Faster, fiercer. Lu barely twisted away, the wind of the beast's claws grazing his cheek. Blood welled, warm against the cold night. Pain was nothing. Behind him, Meena gasped. The ropes at her wrist strained, useless against her terror. The fire roared higher. Shadows stretched long, and the jungle, the temple, the gods themselves, they all watched as hunter and the monster danced between life and death. The next strike would decide fate. Lu gritted his teeth, sweat mingling with blood as he tightened his grip. The tiger wizard lunged, faster than before, a blur of muscle and malice. Lu dodged, barely. Claws scraped his shoulder, white-hot pain searing through him. But he did not fall. The axe swung. A desperate arc, a whisper of death. The blade struck flesh. The beast roared, staggering back. Not a mortal wound, but the first. The fire flared, the temple trembled. Meena's breath caught, and the jungle listened, waiting to see who would fall first. Silence crashed down. For a moment, the world seemed to forget itself. The fire flickered, the jungle stilled, even the wind dared not move. Lu stood over the fallen beast, chest heaving, his hands trembling around the axe slick with blood and fading magic. The golden flames curled into the night, their light shrinking, swallowed by the dark. Then, a whisper. A breath. Meena. Lu turned, his legs unsteady. She was still bound, still watching, eyes wide with something more than fear, relief. The ropes fell away with a single stroke of his blade. She collapsed into his arms, and as the last embers of the tiger wizard's curse faded into the wind, the jungle exhaled. Oh. The night stretched quiet around them. The fire's glow flickered against the temple's ancient stones, casting long shadows that no longer hid monsters. Meena's hands, free at last, trembled as they fell to her sides. The ropes had left red marks on her wrists, but she did not seem to notice. She only looked at Lu. He swallowed, uncertain. No words came. Then, gently, hesitantly, Meena reached out. Her fingers brushed his, a touch light as falling petals. Lu stiffened. He had spent a lifetime unseen, unwanted. But now, beneath the watching stars, he felt something new, and as the cherry blossoms drifted in the night air, he let himself believe. The village watched from a distance. Once, they had whispered of the ugly hunter, the outcast who did not belong. But now, they saw something different, not a man cursed by fate. Not a woman bound by duty, but two souls who had chosen each other. Meena's fingers tightened around Lu's, a silent promise. He, who had walked alone for so long, now had a home, not in the walls of his cottage, but in the warmth of her hand. The wind stirred again, petals dancing in the sunlight, and as they stepped forward together, the past did not follow. The drums pounded like distant thunder, but Chief Fang heard only the silence of his thoughts. Meena smiled. Lu stood tall. The people who once whispered now cheered. They had forgotten, forgiven, but he had not. A beast had been slain, but another had taken its place, one dressed in wedding robes, standing where he did not belong. Chief Fang turned away, his shadow stretching long beneath the fire's glow. This was not the end, not yet. Morning came with a hush, the sky still bruised from the night. Lu stood at the village's edge, his bow slung across his back, his axe resting at his hip. Chief Fang was already waiting, dressed in fine hunting robes, his knife sheathed at his side. His smile was easy. His eyes were not. The jungle is different at dawn, he mused, adjusting the straps of his quiver. Quiet, waiting. Lu said nothing. Meena lingered nearby, arms wrapped around herself. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Only her eyes pleaded, dark with something between worry and warning. Chief Fang stepped forward, clapping Ko-Fa on the back. Come, he said. Let's hunt. The fire from last night's celebration had burned to embers. The drums had gone silent, and as Ko-Fa followed his father-in-law into the waiting jungle, the morning mist swallowed them whole. Lu did not turn. He did not need to. He felt the shift in the air, the weight of a gaze sharpened with purpose. The hunter knew when he had become the hunted. The dagger whispered free of its sheath. A slow step, then another. Chief Fang's voice was calm, almost gentle. You don't belong, Lu. The wind howled. The water raged, and then, a sharp shove. A flash of steel, the ground vanished beneath him, and Lu fell. The world crashed around him, water slammed into his body, stealing breath, stealing thought. The current seized him, dragging him into the depths. Up became down, light became dark. Lu fought. His limbs burned, his chest screamed for air, but the river was relentless. It pulled him deeper and deeper until the world blurred into silence. His vision darkened. Somewhere above, the jungle still watched. Somewhere far away, Meena still waited, but beneath the waves, something else stirred, and the river did not let him go. The waters parted at her touch. Lu's body, limp and fading, drifted toward her like a leaf upon the tide. His breath was gone. His soul teetered on the edge. The guardian tilted her head, listening to the whispers of the river, the echoes of a life carved in struggle, a hunter, a warrior, a man cast aside, but not yet finished. She reached into the depths with a breath like the first wind of dawn. Silver light curled around him, seeping into his skin, mending what was broken, shaping what was forgotten. The river had taken many, but tonight, it returned one. The question echoed in his mind, as vast and unknowable as the waters that had remade him. Lu's heart pounded against his ribs, his breath ragged as he stared into the rippling surface. The man who had fallen was gone. In his place stood something else, something the world had never known. The wind stirred, rustling the reeds, whispering secrets he could not yet understand. His fingers curled into fists, grounding him against the weight of the impossible. Then, a thought. A name, a promise, Meena. The past had cast him aside. The river had given him back, and now, it was time to return. The marketplace buzzed with life, voices bartering, laughter spilling like river water. Then he walked in, a stranger, golden-skinned and striking, moved through the crowd. Women turned, whispers trailing in his wake. Eyes lingered, admiration blooming like spring flowers, but Meena did not see beauty. She saw something else. She lifted her gaze, grief still heavy in her chest, and then, their eyes met, familiar. Impossible. Her breath caught. Could it be? The noise of the market dulled. The heat of the midday sun pressed against her skin, but she felt only the chill of disbelief. The man did not speak. He only held her gaze, steady, searching, waiting, and in that moment, the world shifted. The night stretched quiet between them, the hum of the marketplace now a distant murmur. Meena lowered her gaze, searching for reason in the swirl of tea within her cup. But reason did not live here, not in the warmth of his stare or the unspoken weight between them. Lou's fingers curled around his cup, steady despite the storm inside him. He had been given a new face and life, yet sitting before her, he was nothing but the man who had loved her. Meena exhaled, slow, uncertain. Have we met before? The lantern swayed, their golden light catching in his eyes, and Lou smiled, soft, knowing, yes. Silence hung thick in the air. The firelight cast shifting shadows across stunned faces, the weight of truth pressing heavy on every soul gathered. Meena's hands clutched her sleeves, her breath caught between shock and something more profound, something inevitable. Chief Vang's fingers curled into fists. His carefully built world trembled, cracking beneath the force of the impossible, the outcast. The hunter. The man he had thrown to his death, alive, changed. Lou took another step forward, his voice steady, unyielding. You tried to erase me. His gaze never wavered. But fate has spoken. The fire crackled. The jungle whispered, and Chief Vang felt, for the first time, what it meant to be hunted. Lou and Meena stand on a hilltop at sunrise, hand in hand, looking over their homeland. The golden light of dawn spills over the valleys, painting the rivers molten gold and setting the distant mountains aglow. A gentle breeze stirs Meena's hair, carrying the scent of cherry blossoms and fresh earth. Lou's grip tightens around hers, steady and confident. No longer the outcast, no longer the hunted, he stands not as who he was, but as who he has become. Meena turns to him, her gaze filled with something more profound than love, understanding, unwavering and steadfast. The past lies behind them like fading mist. Before them stretches an unwritten future, waiting to be claimed, and as the first birds sing to the rising sun, they step together toward a destiny of their own making.